What's up, guys? This is Caleb with VK Real Estate, brokered by EXP. And today we're going to answer the question that a lot of people have on their minds right now, which is it still safe to buy? Is the bubble about to burst? Well, we're going to take a look at the different factors at play and see if we can't figure out where this thing's headed. So I try to stay pretty plugged into what the market's saying. You know, I read comments on videos, I read comments on posts and stuff, and I would say, probably 80% of the comments I see are, oh man, just wait till this thing bursts, man. I got my money in hand. I'm ready to take advantage of this thing. But, I mean, is that really going to happen? Is that really what we're seeing here? Well, first, let's define what a bubble is, okay? So a housing bubble is generally defined as a run-up of housing prices fueled by demand, speculation, and exuberant spending up to the point of collapse. Now, the key term to take away from that definition is speculation, okay? Speculation can be defined as the assumption of unusual business risks in hopes of obtaining commensurate gain. So, in other words, you really start to over-leverage in order to hit that grand slam in the form of large and quick returns. As this momentum and really the mindset of it builds over time, eventually prices climb to the point where the market kind of pushes back and said, hey, this isn't sustainable anymore. And at that point, demand would sharply decrease, which would effectively drop prices and burst the bubble. So is that what we have going on right now? Is that what we're starting to see in the market? A little bit of pushback? Well, let's look at the last crash and see if we can't find some similarities there. So when you look back at 2008, it wasn't really so much of an undersupply problem like we have now as it was a lending problem. So similar to like we have now, interest rates were at all-time lows. Now, obviously this is relative since rates back then were mid to high fives and we've been in the high twos, low threes, but that's not really the point. The point is there was a lot of people getting approved for mortgages that nowadays would never be getting approved. So they had things what they called stated income loans, or liar loans as they called them, where, windy waitress at the corner diner could be like, yeah, I make 500 grand a year. And they'd say, oh, all right, cool. Here's $1 million at an adjustable rate. Go have fun. And then they created a whole new market for low and no credit borrowers called subprime loans, which were eventually sold, packaged, and then resold on Wall Street as low risk investments, which that didn't really pan out the way they thought it would. So in that massive run leading up to 2008, that was more fueled by ease of access to money and then very risky investing, aka speculation. Nowadays lending restrictions are pretty tight, so while there's still plenty of no money down programs out there, you got to have pretty good credit and job history to even qualify, so you don't have a massive amount of people getting a bunch of loans that they ultimately can't afford. Another thing to consider in the years leading up to 2008 is that new construction was going absolutely insane to the point where they actually overbuilt. So when that bubble burst, we had all kinds of supply just sitting there not getting bought up, which fueled the fire. And ever since then, we've actually underbuilt. So while there are some similarities between then and now, there's a couple key differences that make this seem more like a housing boom rather than a housing bubble. So then, is the boom over? Is it a good time to buy right now? Well, let's look at where the trends are headed. So this data comes from my local MLS, which is the Kansas City Metro and surrounding areas. And this also only includes existing homes, not new construction. Now, you'll notice in January, we were averaging just under $250,000 for an average. And then we kind of climbed up a little bit in February, leveled off in March, and then really started to shoot up from March to June. So that's where essentially the boom happened. Now, something to keep in mind is a lot of this is seasonal. And what I mean by that is parents that have kids that are school-aged, a lot of them will start looking in February and March in order to buy sometime from May through July when summer break is. So the overall shape of this graph isn't really anything different, but the ramp up or the magnitude of it is really the surprising thing. Going from an increase of $50,000 in average sales price in just 6 months is pretty uncommon. Now this graph here shows the average days on the market by month. So really nothing surprising here. As you can see, the first 3 months we were around 28, 29 days, and then the last 4 months of this year we've been 13, 14, 15. So as that boom happened, you see we dropped by almost 50%, which isn't super uncommon. It's kind of to be expected with what we had going on, but still interesting to see laid out like this. And then you have this graph, which shows the percentage of list price received. So You can see the first 3 months of the year, people were averaging just below or right at asking price. And then when the boom really started to take off, they were averaging at the peak, just over 103% of asking price. So that's pretty crazy to see, not something that we see very often. So at that average of a $300,000 price point, that means homes were selling $9,000 to $10,000 over asking across the board. I think the most ridiculous offer I heard of was $85,000 over asking, at least in our market. But I'd be curious to hear, what you guys either had to compete with or what you heard about. So leave your answer below in the comments. Now for the last two graphs, we're going to look at the number of closed and pending sales versus the months of supply. So before I show you those though, I want to give you a little bit of context. So generally 6 months of supply is considered a balanced market. If you have over 6 months of supply, that's considered more of a buyer's market, and under 6 months of supply is considered more of a seller's market. Well, we've been under 6 months of supply since 2016. So personally, I think a balanced market is more like 4 months of supply, but we've even been under that since 2018. So this whole lack of inventory thing isn't really a new concept. It's actually something that's been gradually getting worse over time. Then when the pandemic started and people started staying home a lot more often or working from home, a lot of people realized like, wow, I don't really like this house that much, or wow, this house is way too small for all of us to be here at the same time. So that really cranked up demand. And then at the same time, you have forbearances come out, moratoriums come out, student loan deferrals come out. So if I don't have to make a mortgage payment and I don't have to make a student loan payment, so my bills are basically nothing, and I'm actually making more money with extra unemployment benefits than I am going to work, like, why would I sell my house? So you have an increase in demand and a subsequent decrease in supply because people are living there for basically free. So that really added a lot of fuel to the fire of this supply and demand issue we've been facing. Now again, this graph shows the closed and pending sales by month. So as you can see, in February we were kind of at our lowest point, and then we quickly climbed up whenever we had that boom, and we almost peaked in May to essentially level off ever since then. Now this graph here is the one that I found the most interesting because you would have expected during a boom that the inventory would have actually been dropping, but this graph shows something else. You can see we were at our lowest point here in February, and even though we had the most demand and the most homes being sold, supply was still steadily increasing and then sort of peaked in July and again started to level off after that point. The reason for that spike in supply from June to July, in my opinion, is people really started to realize how much their home values actually went up. So we had that record month in June, which means people started to eat barbecues at their neighbor's house and be like, yeah, did you hear Bobby across the street there just sold his home for $475? And they're all like, wait, how much? And they're like, yeah, dude, it's crazy right now. So then you got a lot of sellers like, they had 15 offers, which means 14 people still want to live here. So, maybe how bad would it be? How bad would it be to go live in a camper for a few months while we built a house? So I know that was at least the case for my wife and I. It was a serious conversation. Needless to say, it got shut down. But anyway, now if you were paying attention, you would have noticed that most of those graphs started to level off or even reverse there at the end of it. So does that mean the crash is coming? I don't really think so. Supply is still really low and demand is still really high. There's a lot of people out there getting pre-approved even now. So while I do expect supply numbers to keep climbing up, I think we're going to see more of a leveling off and a slow decline of values over time, which makes it seem like, waiting a little bit longer, maybe till next year, would be a good idea. I do think 2022 is going to be a lot better year for buyers. But the real question mark here is, what are interest rates going to do? So in order to figure that out, we have to take a look at the mortgage-backed securities market. So a mortgage-backed security is a bond that trades on Wall Street, and the price of this bond has an inverse relationship with your mortgage rates. So as the price of the bond goes up, mortgage rates go down. Well, in order to stimulate the economy when the pandemic hit, the Federal Reserve started buying these bonds at the tune of $40 billion a month. That's billion with a B. The reason they've been doing this is so they can stimulate the economy by keeping interest rates at record lows. So why is this relevant? Well, the Federal Reserve has been saying for months now that once the people start going back to work and the jobs reports start getting better, they're going to start doing what's called tapering. So they're going to start buying less and less of those mortgage-backed securities. When there's more sellers in the market than buyers, that drives prices down, which drives interest rates up. Now, it's not like there's no jobs out there. I mean, there's help wanted signs on every corner. So With the extra unemployment benefits going away and about 18,000 people a day expected to come out of forbearance here in the next couple months, it's pretty fair to assume that those jobs numbers are going to start shooting back up and the Federal Reserve is going to start to taper. By the end of 2022, the Mortgage Bankers Association is expecting rates to be somewhere around 4.3%, which is about 1% higher than we have right now. Well, that may not sound like much, but for every 1% rates go up, you lose 10% of your purchasing power. So what I mean by that is if you were pre-approved right now for a $400,000 house, when your rates go up 1%, you can now only get pre-approved for a $360,000 house. And that same house would run you about an extra $200 a month on your mortgage payment. So depending on how long you plan on living in your next home, it may end up being a wash if you wait too long. So should you try to buy now or should you wait? Well, the short answer is it depends. We're really seeing a couple different extremes in the market right now. So on one end, on the entry level or first-time home buyer market, it's still extremely competitive, and I don't really see that changing anytime soon. There's a lot of millennials right now reaching their late 20s, early 30s, getting married, wanting to start a family, wanting their own space, and getting tired of rent bumps. So that fuels a lot of demand right there. And not only are they competing against each other, they're also competing with like Open Door and Redfin and these other institutional investors that are snapping up these homes as quickly as they can find them. For you guys, all I can really say is hang in there. If you got credit issues or something else maybe holding you back, I'd be getting your ducks in a row and getting everything lined up so that way when you get presented with an opportunity, you can act quick. I do think you'll see more homes available in your price point just as forbearances end and student loan payments kick back in and all that, but I don't see prices dropping that much just because of the level of competition. So my best advice is just get ready and stay ready. So when you find something that makes sense for you, you can act quick. On the other end of the market, the luxury market's on fire right now. You got a lot of people taking advantage of cheap money. And then you also have people that just sold their 2-bedroom condo on the coast for $2.5 million. And then when they relocate to the Midwest, a 6-bedroom for $950 sounds like a hell of a bargain. So that market's just insane right now, and those houses are selling quicker than maybe they ever have. But where we're seeing the biggest softening in the market right now is really in that middle price point. So for our area, that $350 to $550 up to $600 range. And there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, school started. So a lot of people that buy homes in that price point, they have kids. So they'll start looking, February, March in order to buy sometime May, June, July before kids start school again. So a lot of those people just got tired of being outbid and they were like, screw it, we're just going to wait till next year. The second reason is a lot of the new construction in our area is being built in that high 4, low 6 price range. And one of the biggest perks of new construction is they don't take multiple offers. The first person to bring in the money gets the home. So that's obviously attractive for maybe a family looking to upgrade to something. So if you're looking to upgrade from a starter home or possibly even downsize from a luxury home to an existing home somewhere in that price range, I might think about doing something here pretty quick while rates are still low and you have a lot less competition. Obviously now the issue is, okay, cool, but where would we even go? Like there's no homes for sale in the areas we want to live in. Well, if this is you, we actually just started a new program where we can get you access to off-market homes in the exact neighborhood you want to live in. So I'd love to just have a conversation with you and see if this is something that might help you. So in summary, are we going to see a crash? I don't think so. Is now a good time to buy? As long as it makes sense for you personally and financially, then yes, it's a great time to buy. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's the first of many to come, so I'm only going to get better. I'd appreciate some feedback, appreciate a share if you got value out of this. Leave a like, leave a comment, and till next time.